did.
All right. I think we don't want to take any extra time away from Rabbi Weiss, so I don't have a bio for him. I've just known him a long time, and we've been good friends a long time. So Rabbi Stephen Weiss is Rabbi of Shaarei Beth El in Oakville. How long now? A year after me, I think, right?
Yeah, 2007 was when I started.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
1 year.
And that means that after I was chair of the RRGT, that it was Rabbi Weiss's turn. So he is now the current chair of RRGT, and I am very grateful for that. And he's doing a great job. And he's a good friend, and I have no idea what he's teaching today, but here he is. So go ahead, Stephen. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make you.
Oh, you're just back.
You can share your screen.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. It's
Okay.
lovely to join you. Some of you might have been at, I gave a talk when I wrote a book about Israel, but this was probably like 5 or 6 years ago. But your synagogue, as always, is so welcoming, and having the Weiss duo of Corey and Karen is pretty awesome. We also have a duo in our shul. I work at the shul as the rabbi. My wife is the educator, so I know about the duos making great things at synagogue. And Corey, especially, we've been working together. But I'm always amazed at some things that you pull out of your hat, like when you pull the accordion out or the French horn, and all of a sudden like lead music and write music, and then you pull out your curling broom, and all of a sudden he encouraged me to try something new. I thought I knew winter sports, but here comes this American to teach me something. But he knows how to curl. He's excellent at it, and it takes a lot of patience to throw that rock. I'm like hockey. I want that puck to go as fast as possible, but curling is the opposite. You have to guide it. You have to like love the rock and gently send it down the ice, and then you have to trust your teammates will help it get there. It's a totally different kind of sport, and plus the the sort of the social piece around it. It's a lot of fun. So I thank you for that. So nice to meet all these faces. Thank you all for learning with me. I'm gonna kind of jump around a little bit. I had some ideas starting with Hanukkah, because I figured that's happening tonight, and I got my happy Hanukkah sweater on in case you forget. And these are the darkest days of the year, right? We know the winter solstice officially comes up on December 21st, but I was doing a little bit of reading, and already it's the darkest night. Partly our place in the Northern Hemisphere, also because of the waning moon, which is almost gone, and the new moon the official new moon is, I think, next Wednesday, but the moon is barely there in the sky, which means even less light. So we have this Hanukkah season to brighten up our days. So let me share my screen, and I'll start with leading you through the study of Torah text prayer. If you want to join me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. So I like this view here where it kind of focuses. Ooh, look at that. Okay. The light that we are losing at this time is reminiscent of the light, both the creation of light and the loss of light. And with my text study group that I do with Shaarei Beth El, we've been studying Legends of the Jews and studying Adam and Eve for the past couple months, and just spending a lot of time really in depth into their story, how they were created, and of course eating from the tree and then losing all their privileges. So Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Yaakov explain. By the way, as I go through this, I'm happy to sort of take questions. You can just unmute and shout something out, because I might not be able to see you. You can throw it in the chat. My text study class knows just to interrupt, because I'm going to keep going otherwise. So feel free to just throw out a question. So Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Yaakov explain that this light that was created on the first day was a mystical light that Adam and Eve could see through all time and space, which must have been incredible for them. But they lost that. And how did they lose it? They lost it according to, well, here, Bereshit Rabbah, that the light was, they could gaze from one end of the universe to the other, but they lost it. How did they lose it? Because they ate of the forbidden fruit. And this was not a potato latke. This was, we actually don't know for sure what kind of fruit it was on the tree. The typical fruit you normally see is an apple. Not as, according to most of Midrashim, it could have been a fig. A fig is very popular because right after they ate from the tree, they make a fig leaf dress to cover themselves up. So more likely it was fig. But they became naked and they realized they were naked, or were they naked all along? One midrash says that they had this skin overlaid, so this sort of and the cloud of glory was around them, and that left as soon as they ate. And so they stood there in their nakedness and they were ashamed. And the Kabbalists kind of look carefully at this idea of skin and light. And if you see in Hebrew there, those who are comfortable, or with an ayin is the word for skin, and or with the aleph is the word for light. And so they interplay, they sound the same, or. And so once you replace the aleph with the ayin, the light was gone, and now they have their skin. So before they saw light, afterwards they only see skin. That's from Bereshit Rabbah. So they lose out on this beautiful primordial light, and then they are punished. I think most of us know the punishment. V'garesh et hadam v'yashken mikedem legan eden et hakruvim ve'ed lahat acherev mitapechet lishmor derech eitz chaim. So the man was driven out along with Eve, and east of the garden was, east of Eden. Have you heard, what's that movie with, what actor am I thinking of? Yeah, Karen?
I can't think of the movie, but it's a John Steinbeck novel.
Yeah, I think, isn't it called East of Eden, the movie?
It is.
Yeah, and the book is also East of Eden. And the actor is the famous guy who died young. Oh my God, why can't I think of him? James Dean. James Dean is in that movie. Yeah. With, I forget the female actress. She's also really good. Okay, so that's and here we have these the cherubim on the left and this fiery ever-turning sword to guard the way to the tree of life. So if you're ever wandering around Iraq and you see a cherubim and a fiery sword, that is a great clue. Poke your head past it, because you'll be able to go into the Garden of Eden. It has not been found in quite a long time. So now I want to get to this other idea of light and how it connects to Hanukkah. So when they left the garden, this was the first time that Adam had seen the sinking of the sun. And he, whoops, typo there, he was seized with anxious fears. It was the end of Shabbat. And Adam said, woe is me. For my sake, because I sinned, the whole world is darkened, and it will become tohu vavohu, void and without form. It's like Adam feared that he destroyed the entire world by eating of the fruit. Thus will be executed the punishment of death which God has pronounced against me. And he spent the whole night in tears, and he gathered with Eve, and together they wept and cried all night. But then, miracle of miracles, the day begins to dawn, and Adam understood that this is the course of nature, that the sun will set and rise on a daily basis. And so he brought an offering unto God of a unicorn, whose horn was created before his hoofs, and he sacrificed it on the spot on which later the altar was to stand in Jerusalem. So that is probably an unusual midrash. I don't know if anyone's seen that before. When I came across this, I immediately was drawn to two things. One, a unicorn. Where's this coming from? I didn't know unicorns existed. I didn't know unicorns are in the Bible. And then if it's this beautiful unicorn, why would it be sacrificed? But that we know is a common way to connect to God. Now, I should also, we should just context this, that every midrash is written much later, right? So these are rabbis in the, let's say, Talmudic times, who are looking back and trying to give their own interpretations, add details, and add their own way of seeing the world, and then adding, glossing it onto these texts. So this is perhaps something they believed or thought it might have happened this way, and they already knew about sacrifice, so they put it back on Adam and saying, of course, Adam would sacrifice a unicorn or whatever animal that was nearby in order to thank God. And to thank God that the light has come and that they haven't died, or that the whole world was not ended at that time. So what is this unicorn? In Hebrew, it's called the Re'em. You can see it here, Re'em. What is Re'em? So it's mentioned, if you look it up, 9 times in the Hebrew Bible. And it's translated in different ways as either the unicorn or a wild ox. I like unicorn better. Wild ox is okay. 9 times, and all in different contexts. But it's specifically referred to in the creation of the Mishkan, the tabernacle. So as you know, the Mishkan is this portable ark that was created in the desert when the Jews left Egypt, and God said, I want there to be a portable sanctuary where you can pray to me. And this is the point where all connection between God and the people. So they offer sacrifices. This is the sort of focal point. And what are they going to do to build that Mishkan? They clearly need the most beautiful things. They need gems, and they need fabrics, and they need all the precious metals, and they're going to put together the most beautiful home for God. Now we know that everyone needed to be quite generous to give up their very, very valuable things, especially if you're in the middle of the desert. It's hard to find things. And one of the materials is called the tachash. And JPS translates it, but there's a disclaimer. Rabbi Weiss and I both, no, Rabbi Weiss, did you ever, who was your Bible studies teacher when you were at HEC? Was that in Cincinnati or New York at that point?
We were LA first, and
LA.
had Peter Noble for a year, and Sandy Reagans, and then a mix of different people. A little bit of David Sperling.
Oh, you had a little bit of David Sperling. Okay. Karen, did you study with those similar teachers?
Only in LA. Okay.
So I was in New York, and yeah, I studied with David Sperling. Now, David Sperling is a well-known interpreter of Bible, but he's also on the JPS translation committee. So that is this, the greatest, most esteemed colleagues will gather together on the table and translate the Bible into English. You can imagine what that takes of the effort. And even he said that they were not exactly sure what the tachash is. And so there's a little star at the bottom, and it says, this Hebrew is uncertain, if they can't figure it out. So usually at that time, we'll just leave it as tachash, but there is possibly dolphin skin. And whenever I read that, I was like, dolphin skin? How many dolphins are swimming about in the desert? And if they're not in the desert, okay, they get them from the ocean and they somehow brought it with. But again, where are the dolphins? They're not in the Dead Sea. Are they in the Red Sea? Maybe they swum up from the Horn of Africa. I don't know. What are these dolphins doing there? I guess it's possible. I always think of that scene in the 10 Commandments. Come on, everyone's seen the 10 Commandments, right? Do you know that scene where Pharaoh's like in his palace? It's like early on, and this like entourage comes in and provides like all these gifts to Pharaoh. Sort of a scene, kind of not part of the plot, but really to show how great a king he is. It's like the first Pharaoh. And they bring like item after item of like ivory tusks and gold and coins, things they've captured from throughout like Africa as a tribute. So I was thinking maybe like these tributes came into Egypt, and then the Jews, when they were leaving, they kind of gathered up some of these treasures, and maybe there were certain dolphin skins or lapis lazuli, all these, beautiful gemstones or who knows what. And they somehow grabbed it all and ran off into the desert with it thinking maybe we're going to need it one day. The other interpretation, I guess, could be that some moderns say that maybe we didn't wander in the desert all that long, and we're just retroactively looking back and saying this is how it was created. But who knows? Good. All right. Any ideas? I see so many faces. You guys seem engaged. Everyone's good. Okay. Questions at this point? Yeah. Anything?
I'll just say that whenever I have a kid who has a portion like Truma or I've lost the name, but the ones about the building of the tabernacle, I always have to tell them, don't worry, it's not real dolphins. We don't know what it is. We don't know what it is, but
Right.
they not build out of dolphins.
Yeah. That's the most upsetting animal for kids. Not the dolphins, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Other animals they're not as worried about. Okay. All right. So let's jump back into the text. So now the question is, okay, well, if it's not a dolphin, then what is this skin? So according to Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Nehemiah, who are debating in the Midrash about the Tachash, Rabbi Yehuda says, it was a huge kosher animal in the desert, and it had one horn in its forehead, and its hide had 6 colors from which they made the curtains of the tabernacle. That sounds like a beautiful, interesting animal that I would certainly like to encounter. I've been in the desert. I haven't seen many animals like that, but who knows? And Nehemiah said, no. It's a miraculous beast that was hidden away after it was used in the tabernacle. So it was like a one-time use animal. It came out, it was used, and we'll never see it again. And why was it necessary to create such a beast? Because the curtains of the tabernacle were 30 cubits long. And the skin of the tachash was also 30 cubits long. What animal hides are 30 cubits long? It was a momentary miracle. This animal arrived just at the right time. It had the perfect size in order to create this thing. Oh, thanks for your notes there. Yes, it's My Little Pony. A horse of...
Was there already kashrut at that time? Kosher animal?
Great question. The kosher laws at this time had slowly become discovered through the words of Moses. So it's actually a little bit later on after they build but not everything in the Torah needs to come in the specific order. The rabbis always say some things the order doesn't matter as much. So yeah, they're learning about kosher laws. And I guess if they're going to create the Mishkan to God, they should use kosher animals, which is another problem with the dolphin, because that's not a kosher animal.
Kosher animal.
Yeah. I think Rabbi Yehuda certainly wants to make sure that if this special animal, miraculous and all, it's got to be kosher. So it chews the cud, it's got split hooves, has horns don't matter. Horns don't matter for kosher, and the color of the animal doesn't matter.
Because at the time of the rabbi, there was already kosher or kashrut.
For sure.
So,
Absolutely.
Fine.
At the time of the Midrash, for sure, these rabbis know everything about kosher, and they're reading backwards and saying, yeah, that animal had to be kosher.
Okay.
So if you can imagine a animal, what's a cubit? I think they say the cubit's like here. So 30 cubits long, let's say a 30-foot animal or so. That's a big animal. Corey, do you know how long a cubit is?
You're right. That's how they measured it. It's about half a meter. So, 15. That's about a 15 meter or 45-foot animal. That's pretty big.
It's not unheard of, but wandering in the desert at that time, it's very lucky that they came across it. So, good for them. In Shabbat 28a, the Talmud relates another story about this animal. Rabbi Ella said that Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish said that Rabbi Meir said that the Tachash only existed in the days of Moses, and it was a creature unto itself. We don't know what kind of animal it was, whether it was domesticated or undomesticated, but they do agree it had a single horn, and it happened to wander into the camp right when Moses needed it to build the Mishkan, the tabernacle. And so they found this animal, they made the covering from it, and from then on the Tachash was suppressed and is no longer found. Too bad. Yes, this giant unicorn with a colored coat just walked away, and we'll never get to see it again. So clearly the Gemara loves the idea of its and that's why the unicorn sort of makes sense, because if it's a one-time thing and it was just then, that's why we don't see unicorns anymore. It was this one moment for this one particular task. Actually, in a moment, I'm going to get to other specific things that were created in the world that are only designed for one thing. Should I jump to that now? Yeah, I'm going to jump ahead to that now, and then we'll come back. Why not? Okay, here we go. All right. So in the twilight, between the sixth day and creation, there were 10 things. You might have heard this midrash before. 10 things that were created, all of which were for specific purposes later on in history, but they needed to be created so that when they were needed, they were already there. So the rainbow. We don't hear about rainbows at all until Noah's time. Was the rainbow already in existence? It was there, but it wasn't visible until Noah saw it when he came out of the ark. And what is the rainbow? The sign of the covenant that God will never do this again. What else was found? Oh, Karen writes that Joseph's coat, yes, were made from many colors. Very good. Maybe that same animal happened to wander around and Joseph found it to make the multicolored coat. Beautiful. Great midrash. You should write midrash. You could write a whole story about it.
Please. My Hebrew teacher is not up to it, right, Karen?
Karen, this sounds like a group that could definitely write midrash, but that's a great idea. Yeah, like why only Moses got to have it for the tabernacle? We already have an idea of a multicolored coat. Good. Okay. So the manna that falls in the desert, where did that come from? It had already been created, and it was there for when the Jewish people were starving and needed this food. The water springs would pop up in the desert. Thank God for those. Without water, we also would have perished. Other midrashim say Miriam, it was her job to find the well. Miriam's well, would follow along with the Jewish people, and she's also responsible for water. That's why many people take the water on their Seder plate. As part of the Passover Seder, they have a cup of water. The tablets. Was it miraculous that 2 tablets are ready for Moses to write on the 10 Commandments? No, they were already created, and they were waiting for him. And there he went up to Mount Sinai, and there they were. And he needed a pen. And it says there were tables, so the tables themselves. Balaam's she-ass. This is the talking ass that comes about later on. That beautiful story in Numbers, where we get the Matovu Olecha Yaakov phrase that gets repeated as song. So that the talking mouth, that mouth was already created. The grave of Moses, which we have no idea where it is. We only know that Moses was taken by God and buried somewhere. We believe that we didn't want it to turn into a place where it could sort of compete as a shrine of some sort, that we would pray to the grave of Moses and not to God. Or Moses, being our greatest teacher, was the only one to be buried by God, just by worthy of that, which is, he's leading us out of Egypt, and his abilities as a great teacher, only God would be there to bury him, but that grave was already prepared. The cave in which Moses and Elijah dwelt. This is from a midrash later on, where they were given different. Remember Elijah, and he has to hide out because he thinks he's going to be killed. The rod of Aaron, very important rod. It helps guide the Jewish people from Egypt and onward. So that rod is already created. And other sources add that there were a few more things. The staff of Moses, the one that turns into a snake, that was also created ahead of time. The shamir. Does anyone know what the shamir is? Karen probably knows this well. It must have been a story she told to kids one of these days, I'm sure. I love the story of the shamir. Do you guys know what the shamir is? The shamir is like this magical insect or worm. And there's actually this book here from Carben. That's a great kid's book. There's other kids' books about the shamir. Essentially, when Solomon is creating the temple, the first temple in Jerusalem, God says you can't use any elements of war to create a peace, a temple of peace. God's house can't be created using any kind of elements of war like metal. And you need metal or other devices to cut stone so that you can build the walls to build the temple. So how do you cut stone without the proper tools? Miracle of miracles, out comes the shamir. It worms its way through the giant pieces of limestone or whatever stone they were using, Jerusalem stone, cuts it into the perfect size, and then they can carry it down to Jerusalem and build the temple. So very important, this little worm, this little shamir. And connecting back to the beginning of my story, the garments of Adam and Eve. I told you this all comes back. The garments of Adam and Eve were made at the beginning of time, at that early days of creation, so that they would have something to wear when they had to leave the Garden of Eden. And fire, the pillars of fire and cloud, which moved about in the desert to help the Jewish people as they walked. And the ram offered by Abraham, as we know in Akedah Yitzchak, Abraham goes and he's about to sacrifice his son, and then God says, no, don't do it. That's not what I want. And miraculously, when he turns and sees in the bushes, there is a ram ready to be sacrificed. That ram was placed there way before in the time of creation, ready to go. All right. Any questions at this time? Any comments, concerns?
I have to add one for you,
All
Steve,
right.
because another midrash suggests that also on that list is the tongs that made the first tongs, because you need tongs to forge new tongs. And so in our house, because we're such Jewy nerds, every time somebody uses tongs, somebody else asks, are those the tongs that made the first tongs? So,
Rabbi, I was just thinking the same thing. So obviously you've taught us this so many times, but I also wanted to say,
I've been around too long, Brina.
The Peter, Paul, and Mary song, I think the toy was there too.
The toy?
Just, they never knew
Yes.
just what it was, but
Yes.
it was were when it, bop when it stopped, were,
From now on, anything that we can't figure out where it came from, it was already created at the beginning of time, and it's ready for us. The chicken or the egg, they were both created there. The drop of oil that the Maccabees found, maybe that was created ahead of time. I don't know about your homes, but my wife got an early start on cooking latkes this morning at 10:30. She wants it takes a day for that smell to dissipate, you know what I mean? So she liked to get started early so that later in the day we can enjoy the holiday. But I like that, like fresh out of the frying pan latke. I mean, it's got to be like ready to go, right? The minute you want to eat it, from the pan onto my plate. Whipped cream, sour cream. Ooh, whipped cream, that's a good idea. No, sour cream, applesauce. No, Karen's shaking her head.
I don't know, but Karen Fisher told me there's some kind of stuffed latkes. We're talking lox, brisket.
Right. Jamie Geller,
Wow.
kosher in Israel, stuffed latke.
That's interesting. Well, in New York City at the 2nd Avenue Deli, I once had the heart attack sandwich, which is triple layer corned beef pastrami.
The $32 one.
Yeah, and instead of bread, it's 2 giant latkes, and you eat it like a sandwich. That will.
I was just gonna say, I saw a Reuben latke that you make on one of the food sites. It looked insane. It looked insane.
But this is covered. You don't see it's stuffed.
Ooh.
Oh, no.
In other words, you don't see the stuffing.
It's hiding.
It's hiding.
It's a miracle.
So I'm going to try it and let you know next time we get together.
Wow. I remember that 2nd Avenue Deli, though I never ordered one, but they had the best chopped liver in the world.
But
if you never ordered
Avenue anymore, it's not on 2nd Avenue. Or it's uptown. It's on.
I know.
Something.
It's near Holland.
Oh, it moved? I thought it closed completely.
No, it's near.
They're all gone.
No, it's on 34th Street on the west side, all the way on the west side.
Good
As
to
if
know.
we could ever
All
go to
right.
New York again.
Yeah, yeah.
There's still cats.
I lived there
though.
from, oh yeah, I lived there from 2001 to 2005, and with the delis were still around, slowly but surely dying out, but still busy. Carnegie was still busy. Second Avenue Deli was busy. The Pastrami Queen, not as many people know about that. It's on Second Avenue at 79th Street. Pastrami Queen, uptown, not as good. Downtown better. The Karen's giving me the ick.
No, I'm a downtown person.
Upper East Side is not known for great Jewish food, but
Russ and Daughters and Yoni's the kasha knishes.
absolutely.
I'd give anything to have that. Anyway.
How did we get off on this food tangent? We'll never find our way back. Okay. Let's see here. Where was I? All right. Let's jump back into that text. Here we go. What did I do? Okay, here it is. Okay, so we were talking about the things that were created at the moment of creation. And let me share my screen again. And I'm just going to roll back a little bit because I skipped over some other cool stuff I wanted to talk about. Okay. So, all right, we've gone through the tachash, we've gone through the unicorn. If anyone has more information on unicorns, I'd love to hear it. I emailed with David Sterling to try and he was the one that told me we don't know for sure. All right. There is Elisa Coppell is a rabbi who apparently has a whole story of unicorns in the Bible, but we'll get there later. Okay. So Legends of the Jews by Louis Ginsburg, I wanted to bring a story from here. It's one of my favorite Midrashim collections. It's from 1968. It is available for free because it's, that's the most recent collection I have, but it's actually older. And it's now freely available on any website because I guess the copyright is now over or whatever. Anyway, so it's freely accessible anywhere and it's all over the place. So Adam and Eve get kicked out of the Garden of Eden and the sentence is pronounced upon them and the serpent. And so the angels are responsible for turning man and woman out of paradise, and they began to weep and cry, and the angels feel bad. So they go back up to God and they're like, oh, you know, Adam and Eve, they only made one mistake and it wasn't even their fault. I mean, the serpent gave the food to Eve and then Eve gave it to Adam, but if it wasn't for the serpent, just kick at the serpent. And God is like, listen, did I do something wrong? Did I pronounce false judgment? I told them the rules. Here's the tree. Don't eat from it. Everything else is fine. They chose. They made an active choice and they need to be punished. So Adam also said, well, you know, can I have just some fruit from that tree of life? I know I've eaten from the tree of knowledge, but can I get another piece of fruit from the other tree? And God says, well, let's think about that. If I give you tree of life fruit, you will last forever. And that's not the way the world that I'm creating. I'm going to create a world that at this point, now that you have the knowledge, sadly, you will die. And that is all human beings will live and die. That is part of life. So God says, well, you can't eat of that tree, but if you lead a pious life, and this is a lesson to all of us, if you lead that pious life, gimilut chasadim, you do goodness, then you'll be given the fruit on the day of the resurrection. And then you'll live forever, Adam. So we're all waiting for that day when our souls roll over to Jerusalem and we all come back. Adam's going to be at the front of the line and will lead us there. We're each going to eat of the tree and live forever. Or at least our souls or our bodies will live forever at that time. But Adam is like, I can't wait that long. I really want to have something now with me. Please, can I take something with me out of the Garden of Eden? It's like, you know, you're getting kicked out of the hotel and you grab some soaps and some shampoo. I want to take something with me. And Adam weeps and please give me something. How about some of the sweet scented spices out of paradise? That seems like a reasonable request. Anyone know what these sweet scented spices now, what we do with those? That's, yeah, very good. Exactly. The idea of carrying with us a bit of the smell of the Garden of Eden, of the time to come. So yes, it was Adam who first was able to bring that. His prayer was accepted. So they went to God and said, please, Adonai, our God, everlasting, allow us to give Adam the sweet scented spices of paradise. And God heard the prayer. And so these are the spices: the saffron, the nard, the calamus, the cinnamon, and all sorts of seeds besides for his sustenance. So there were seeds that Adam could plant and therefore could grow food and be able to live. So if anyone wonders where we get the spices for the Havdalah, this is one of the earliest sources for that. There are others. And the idea of cinnamon, I think cinnamon's like one of the most popular spices for the Havdalah, to put inside either your little spice box, or I've seen all kinds of different spices these days. Has anyone seen where you take like an orange and then you stick like cloves in it? That's a really cool smell too.
You do that with your etrog as well.
Ooh, yes.
After
I just found my etrog in the back. We were doing some cleaning at the shul. It's been a while because of Corona, and like some things just got left behind. I found like a couple etrogim in our fridge. I brought them home. I don't know what to do with them. I guess. Yeah.
You can just leave them out and they'll dry over a week or two, and then you have them. We have bowls of them from years and years past.
What do you do with them?
Nothing. Show them off. I don't know. It's the only citrus fruit that won't rot, so you can keep it out forever.
Yeah.
I know Rabbi Streifer makes schnapps some years.
I heard that. Yeah, he puts it in like a bottle of vodka and lets it sit for like a couple months or something. Yeah.
Also, you can use your myrtle leaves dried out in your besamim box because they have a lovely smell.
Wow. All right. Tips from the rabbi on how to have great, things to talk about in your home. I love it. I love it. Okay. What else here? Okay, so Gwen is saying that they make good jam. Really? It seems like it would be so sour. Like, I guess a marmalade or something? We'll probably need lots of sugar. Okay. So Adam and Eve leave paradise and out they come. And then you might say, well, how long was that time in paradise? And the rabbis say it was only 12 hours. 12 hours. That's how long. And Adam didn't even get to enjoy all of that because it was the first hour on the sixth day that God conceived of the idea. So it was like an hour of thinking. I need an hour to think about humanity. And then, as we know, it says, and God there's sort of an interesting in the Hebrew that we let us make man in our image, right? You know that line. So that was the council. They had like a big meeting and they decided, the angels and God. Then it took about an hour to collect dust, because it says that God collected dust from all parts of the world, all over the earth, to create this human being, the very first human. And then it took an hour to form. So first collecting dust, then forming. And in the fifth, he was given the skin that we talked about, the ore. And then in the sixth, the soulless shape was complete. It could stand upright. So just picture this kind of like a golem, right? Like this clay-filled form without a soul. And it's standing. And finally, in the seventh hour, the soul was breathed into it. And then in the course of the eighth hour, the man, Adam, was led into Gan Eden in paradise. And in the ninth hour, God said, don't eat of the tree. Okay, so how long did it take for Adam to break that law? The next hour. The next hour. He didn't even get to enjoy this beautiful Garden of Eden, walk around, enjoy being with Eve. There was a lot of things to do. Right away, transgressed. He was judged and in the 12th hour cast out of paradise. That's a pretty busy day. I don't think I can get 12 hours, that much done in 12 hours like God could. Well done, God. All right. So, and what was this day? This eventful day was the first of the month of Tishrei. And so God said to Adam, you shall be the prototype. You were judged on me, but you were absolved. You might say, what do you mean absolved? Well, he didn't die, right? The punishment should have been death. So Adam was absolved from the ultimate punishment of death, but not absolved from being kicked out of the garden. And so every day, every year on this day, everyone shall have an opportunity to atone for their sins, and they shall be absolved. And we're going to call this Rosh Hashanah. There it is. There's the Midrash on Rosh Hashanah. Now, as we know, there's the 7 days of creation. This Midrash kind of just sums it all up. The heaven and earth on the light on the first day, then the second day. That's when the angels were created. That's not in the Torah text, but it's adding a little bit of extra. The Gehenna, whether we believe in hell or not, there is this idea that there's a place that you don't want to go. That's Gehenna. Then you have the trees, herbs, and then paradise was created there on the third day, ready to go for when humans are created. There's the Leviathan. Don't forget about him, that beast of the sea. I guess the Ziv probably should have been created then too. The poor Ziv. And then God was going to rest on the seventh day. So there was double duty for the sixth day. You get Adam and Eve, and then you get cattle, the reptiles, the beasts of the sea, and the demons. This, I love when these midrashim just like throw extra words in there, and you're like, demons? I don't remember reading anything about demons in Hebrew school. Even in rabbinical school, I don't remember David Sperling saying, oh, by the way, all the demons were created on the sixth day. No? What's going on? Why do we need demons, and why were they created? So this led me down like a whole rabbit hole. So I pulled up a couple texts here about the demons. So just before the first Shabbat, we get some of these demons. There's incorporeal spirits. And they don't have bodies because there wasn't time. It's like, you know how the Jews left Egypt, there wasn't time to let the bread rise. So God was facing the same dilemma. So I'm going to create some demons, but I'm not going to give them bodies. They're just going to be free spirits. Good. Okay. In Hebrew, the demons are called Mari'im. Mari'im. Thanks, Karen. Her class was Mari'im. Sorry for that teacher, I feel bad. I think everyone in seventh grade gets a little demonic quality somewhere around seventh.
He was not nice to us.
Somewhere around seventh, eighth grade, you get a bit of that demonic quality. Who was I just talking to? When I was in grad school, I went to Brandeis to learn to get an education degree. So I remember I was studying, all the theories of education. Secular education, Jewish education. I had these incredible teachers there, Susan Shevitz, Bernie Reisman, Joe Reimer. And, they encouraged me to, because, up to that point, I'd just been teaching religious school, but I didn't know what I was doing. So they're like, no. We have theories, and there's years of science behind teaching and lesson planning and, blah, blah, blah. So they taught me all this stuff. And every day I'd go into the classroom and like take a theory and put it on my poor students who didn't know what was coming. And so there I am, like trying all these new things on them. They were like, oh no, what's he gonna do today? But they were also like the worst class ever. It was a grade 7 class at this conservative shul in just outside of the Boston area, Temple Amuna in Lexington. I'm sure those kids are fine now, but they were demons back then, Karen, I understand. And man, did they make my life a living HE double hockey sticks. I mean, I tried the theory. I'd come back to class. I'd be like, I don't know if it worked because the kids wouldn't let me. So the teacher asked me to tape them and tape me teaching so then we could analyze it. Oh, that was, they were so bad. They were like running up to the camera and like making faces. And I was like trying to teach and they're, oh my God, I got back. So at least the teacher felt a little bad for me. She's like, I understand. But we spent a lot of semester focusing on how to control kids. But I think at grade 7, they're uncontrollable.
Grade 7 is a challenging year.
Yeah. Puberty, physical changes. They're becoming teenagers. They're nuts. Although I have a 13-year-old in my house, so I should probably keep it quiet right now. She's studying online, but she's oh no, wait, she's in school. My other kids are not. It's so confusing right now, but I do have a 13, a 14, and a 16-year-old. I don't know where they are at any time, but I definitely the 16-year-old. It starts to I see the calming down a little bit, way different than 13, 14, 15. All right, let's see, where were we? Okay, let's get back in. Here we go. So who are these demons and what do we want with them? Well, they are rebellious angels, okay? So they could have been good angels, but they're the bad ones or the rebellious ones. And Sefer Yetzirah says they're somewhere not quite angels, because then they'd be helpers to God, and they're certainly not humans. They don't have bodies. So they have wings, and they can move about, and they can somehow see what's happening in the future. But like humans, they eat and they drink, they propagate, and they die. They can assume any form they please, and they can see man without being seen. I guess those demons are around us anytime, so be careful. I think these days they take the form of coyotes in Thornhill. Okay. So this is okay, so that's the end of any questions about our rebellious angels, these Marim? I hope we never have to engage with one. This is that we already talked about, the stuff that was created at creation. I already added in the tongs. Thank you, Rabbi Weiss. I'm going to add that in. The tongs that made the first tongs. Okay. Now I just wanted to present a little bit about the end of Adam's life in our last few minutes that we have together. So Adam lived to 930 years old, a pretty good life, I would say. And finally, he was seized by sickness, and he knew that his days were coming to an end. And so he assembles his descendants at the door. He had a house of worship. I guess he made a synagogue over his 930 years, and he would offer prayers there. And so he gathers everyone to give them final blessings. So his family comes there, and they can't believe it. There he is, stretched out, and he was suffering, and they didn't know what was this disease. I guess they didn't. Well, I guess they kind of know what death is because Abel died, but they don't really understand how death can happen naturally. Like they've seen death in terms of someone killing someone else. So they don't know about pain and suffering, and so they're trying to figure it out. So what is it? Is it that Abraham was longing for those fruits of paradise? Maybe at the moment when he's so sick, he wants that fruit that will give him everlasting life and take away his pain. Perhaps he's depressed. So Seth, his son, says, I'm going to go to the gates of paradise and I'm going to beg God to just give us one of these magical fruits. But Adam says, no, you need to understand what pain and sickness are, that it's a part of life, and that he is in this pain and sickness because of the punishment for the sin. And so Adam suffered tears and groans, but he understood that that was just part of what was going to happen to him because of his sin. But Eve said no. Eve said, listen, Adam, give me half of your sickness so we can share it, because I gave you the fruit to eat from, which is why I've been punished. I listened to that serpent so long ago, so this is my fault. Let me bear your pain. So beautiful. You know, we never get into these stories of like what Adam and Eve might have been feeling, and especially Eve. You know, certainly there's much more ink about Adam, but what a beautiful moment here that we can think about Eve, who wants to take on the burden of sickness from her husband and take it on herself. Just a gorgeous midrash here. So what's going to happen? Okay, so there Eve and Seth they had enough. They go up to God at the gates of paradise and they cry and they say, God, please, they pray, can we have some oil from the tree of mercy? And for hours and hours they prayed until finally the archangel Michael comes and says, I've been listening to all your prayers. But God has listened and God has decided, I'm sorry, I cannot grant your petition. Adam will die in a few days, and just as he will die, you too will die one day. Again, only at the time of the resurrection, then you'll get a little bit of this oil of life, and you'll get the bliss and the delights of paradise. So the rabbis who are writing this understand that, we all are seeking, the golden elixir. We're looking for that spark, that somehow some magic thing, because we all of us have faced either our own mortality, our own sickness, or we know loved ones who have faced a sickness that just doesn't make any sense. And wouldn't it be lovely to have some sort of oil of life? The only oil of life I can think of right now is this magic inoculation that we're going to get from Pfizer. I guess they somehow got up to the Garden of Eden and were able to squeeze some of it out of this Garden of Eden. Or our scientists are just very, very smart people. So that is the end of my sort of text that I was going to bring. I have a little bit here about the very, very end. I don't know. I just want to stop for a minute and see if we had any other comments or questions or anything people wanted to share. Yeah, anyone want to questions or comments?
Very talkative.
Not so much on Zoom.
People do talk less on Zoom. It's true.
Yeah,
it's true.
All right, everybody. All right, I guess you want to hear Adam die, right? I led you right to the end. I can't leave you hanging. Okay, all right. Let's just finish it off. Finish Adam off. Sorry, Adam. We know the end of the story. So on the last day of Adam's life, Eve said to him, how can I go on living without you? How shall I linger? And Adam said, don't worry. Has anyone seen the movie, The Notebook? This is what I'm picturing. Oh, I don't want to spoil it if you haven't seen it, but okay, just close your ears for a second. But there's a beautiful scene at the end when they get together and they know that they're going to die. So Adam says, don't worry, we're going to die together. We're going to be buried in the same place. So don't touch my corpse, because an angel is going to come down and just begin to pray. And then my soul is going to go up. Amazing. So there's Eve praying on her knees, and the angel says, okay, arise. Your husband has left his mortal coil. Arise. And you can see his spirit go up to the Creator. Amazing. And there she stands and she looks up in the sky, and there's a chariot of light drawn by 4 shining eagles and preceded by this row of angels. And there in this chariot lay the soul of Adam, and the angels are taking him up to heaven. We've heard the Merkava idea. We've seen it in different prophets, and this sort of shining chariot up there. And so they're burning incense, and there's clouds of smoke in the heaven, and they're all praying to God, the angels, to have mercy upon this human being that was created in the image of God. And this was the work. The holy hands created this image, this person, out of the dust of the earth. So please have mercy. And so Eve summons her son Seth, and they said, let us look in awe and fright upon what we're seeing. And then she says, who may the 2 Ethiopians be who are adding their prayers to thy fathers? Like, what? Where did this come from? Okay. No. It's the sun and the moon. It's not 2 Ethiopians who are standing up in the sky. Don't worry, Seth said. That's the sun and the moon. They turned so black because they could not shine in the face of the Father of light. So the chariot's going up. The sun and the moon turn dark, and the angel blows the trumpet, and all the angels start to pray, blessed be God. And then a seraph seizes Edom and carries him off to the river Acheron, and he gets washed 3 times, right? We know about 3 times washing in a mikvah. and then brings him up before the presence of God. There's God on the throne. God reaches out the hand, lifts up Adam, passes him over to the archangel Michael, and says, lift up Adam, not just this first second, but up to the third heaven, and there leave him until the great and fearful day. He's going to work his way up to the seventh heaven. And so Michael, at the divine behest, and all the angels continue singing songs of praise, and they're extolling God. Sharon's asking, why is she on her knees? We are allowed to pray on our knees only to God, not to anybody else. There are certain moments. You're right. We don't usually pray on our knees. There are moments in the Bible when people get down on their knees. I'm thinking of Hannah, and on Yom Kippur, I'm thinking of moments when we fully give ourselves over. But you're right. It's not the most common position of prayer for Jewish people.
Rabbi Weiss.
Yes, Karen.
If God would do this for Adam who sinned, what would the death be for somebody who didn't? This is like he's being rewarded for what he did.
Yes. I'm
being nasty today.
Is there anyone perfect that has never sinned, not done
no
one sin?
That's right, but it's like over the top is what I meant.
Perhaps. I mean, there is this idea that of all human beings, this was the first one and created by God. Every other human being is created by other human beings, even though we all have the soul of God and we're all in the image of God. But this was the first one created by God. So maybe Adam gets extra special treatment as the first human being. Maybe while Adam sinned, it was only one sin, the sin at the garden. But the next 930 years, he was free of sin. So, if you can get through life with one sin, this is what's coming.
Okay.
Pretty good. I mean, all things considered, this is a great way to go.
Yes, that is.
Yeah. And check this out here. He gets the linen. We know about the idea of even today, we're buried in these burial shrouds of linen and the sweet smelling oil. But here comes the body of Abel. Poor Abel, killed by his brother Cain. His body gets placed in beside Adam, and Cain had tried to hide it, we know, but where's my brother, right? But God knew all along, so it got brought up there and it came over here because it says here, no creature shall rest on earth until the first one of all has returned to the dust to me of which it was formed. So Adam goes back to give the dust back. And then Adam and Abel are carried over back to paradise. There was, I guess Abel here's on the stone waiting. And they buried them on the same spot where God had taken the dust out of the earth. And God says to the body of Adam, Adam, and it says, here I am, God. And God said, I return thee. This is, we often say this at funerals today. You came from dust, you returned to dust. But I don't know if Rabbi Weiss does, I promise thee resurrection. That we leave that one. That's between the lines. I think we let that one go.
I think we do talk about the immortality of the soul, but we
Al Tzrei Chaim. Yeah, we talk about we in a more general sense. And then the grave is sealed, that none may do harm during the 6 days to elapse until his rib should be restored to him through the death of Eve. So 2 quick hints at the very end there. Number 1, that Eve's going to die 6 days later. And number 2, that every part should be restored. And we know that there is a Jewish tradition that every part of the body should be buried together. We've seen that in Israel a lot, sadly. But we know that's why some Jews are uncomfortable with organ donation and whatnot. But just rest assured, organ donation is kosher because you're saving lives. That's more important than this. And God knows where all your pieces are. Just like Adam died and then later on the rib got returned. If you donate an organ, God will find it and return it to you at the right time. So don't worry. You can give all the pieces you want upon your death. It'll all come back to you. And on that note, happy Hanukkah.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Weiss. That was great. Wonderful to remember some of those great midrashim. So we thank you so much. If you will, I'm just going to remind everybody of all the amazing things happening at Har Zion for Hanukkah. Tonight at 5:30, we'll have a candle lighting from the Weiss house on Zoom. Tomorrow night is our special Kolbo service at 6:30 with visual tefillah. Saturday night is the big Saturday Night Live from the Reform movement from all over the country, which Rabbi Weiss had a lot to do with putting together. So
It's gonna be great.
it will be great. Sunday night is the World Union celebration. If you want to go on to that, we'll also, I think, is it Rosh Chodesh next Monday, Karen, with latkes, if you've made them. And then last night of Hanukkah, we'll be back at the Weiss house at 5:30 for candle lighting. Sisterhood has an event. I forget when. Is that Wednesday night? Next Wednesday night?
Wednesday.
Wednesday night with the cantor. So there's a lot going on. So there's lots of things to do all throughout the holiday. And Rabbi Weiss, thank you so much for the trade. For those of you who don't know, I taught Rabbi Weiss's group last week, and it was a lot of fun. We should do this often. This was really wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah,
and
fun.
for all of our regulars, well, for everybody, next week we'll go back to Orchot Tzadikim, and then we'll take a couple weeks off. So I'll announce that stuff next week. So thank you, everybody, and thank you, Rabbi Weiss, and Chag Sameach, everyone.
All right. Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you, Rabbi Weiss.
Thank you.
Weiss.
That was
Thank you, Rabbi
just
Weiss.
what I needed.
Very
interesting.
Very good.
Brina, 1:30.
Very good.
1:30 works for me, Rabbi.
All right. Thanks, everyone, and enjoy your Hanukkah. We're
Take
actually going to
care.
try to get some to my Zadie's this afternoon. God knows what that'll be like. They make the best variety of sufganiyot around. So if you get a chance, you can get to my Zadie's.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, everyone, and we'll give the Har Zion Zoom goodbye. Ahad, Shtayim, Hello. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.